If we were just smarter, we'd make more money, we'd be happier, we'd live a better life. But is this even true? What if I was to tell you that many smart people wish they weren't that smart? What if I was to tell you that many smart people are secretly miserable and very lonely? Would you even believe me if I told you that many gifted people believe if they weren't as smart, they'd be much more happier? It's time to knock the doors down on the intelligence myth on today's episode of the Hezron Springer Show. In a smart person's younger years, they don't realise how smart they truly are. But once a smart kid starts reaching the ages of 8, 9, 10 or 11, the gap starts to widen. And this is where you see that one kid in the class that somehow works out all the questions before everybody else. There's always that one smart kid that's just quicker than everybody else. And you know exactly who he or she is. They do things quicker, they understand the concepts quicker, and you sit back and you think, how do they do it? It's like they don't even try. Like, you try to keep up, but the truth is, they're just smarter. Slowly but surely, the smart kid starts to work out that they're not like everybody else. They don't understand why, but they intrinsically know that they're just a little bit different. If you're the only smart kid in the class, and no one can keep up with you, who do you have to talk to or to relate to? That's exactly why the smart kid invariably becomes lonely. Because the quicker that he becomes, the faster that he completes his assignments, the more the gap between him and his classmates. A lot of friendships are built on shared struggles, but because the smart kid doesn't struggle like everybody else, he has no one to become friends with. For how smart the smart kid is, they don't know why they're even smart to begin with. For this reason, they might start to believe that it's all them, and because of that, an air of superiority for many smart kids sets in. So as the smart kid plunges into the land of utter unrelatability to his peers around him, he further becomes more unrelatable by acting superior and smug. By the time the smart kid has reached their early teens, the gap has now widened to the point of no return. The smart kid starts to realise that his hobbies and everyone else's hobbies are completely different. His taste of music, compared to everyone else, is just wildly different. He might listen to classical music and jazz, whereas everyone else listens to pop, hip hop, rap and trap. While everyone else is playing Call of Duty, FIFA or Fortnite on their PlayStation 5, the smart kid is secretly going back home to his computer to play RuneScape, World of Warcraft, a role-playing game, or some sort of train or plane simulator. The smart kid knows from prior experience, if he was to tell his peers what he really likes, they would definitely laugh at him, bully him, or worse. The smart kid is actually really easy picking for bullies because the smart kid is already ostracized. He likes weird things, he dresses weirdly. The bully comes in and thinks, yeah, that's my target. The research shows that the smarter you are, the higher the chance of being neurodivergent. For this reason, smart kids have a higher chance of having traits such as autism, ADHD, or Asperger's syndrome, which are traits that unfortunately class you as not being social compared to neurotypical people. What a lot of us don't understand is you don't get just to be smart and everything else in your life remains the same. If you're a truly smart person, your life is wildly different compared to everybody else. Smart kids have a far higher chance of being antisocial, not because they don't want to be social, but because they don't need to be social to get ahead. A lot of the reasons why a lot of us are social is because we know if that we work together in a community, in a friendship group, in an organization, it will be much easier to achieve far difficult tasks. But for a smart kid, it's not like that at all. A smart kid can tackle the same difficult problems all by themselves. So they kind of corner themselves into their own corner because the truth is, they don't really need anybody else. They can do the same thing as 10 people on their own. The smart kids at school start to even resent their own teachers. Why? Because they're smarter than them. And they feel like their peers, their teachers, and the whole education system is holding them back. A smart kid is like an F1 car on a 30-mile-per-hour road. Not for a day, not for a week, but for the whole of their pre-adolescent lives. They're like a bull that can never be set free. They're like a lion that can never eat. For the smart kid, they feel like they're on a leash for the majority of their childhood because they can't fulfill everything they can. They're going at 10 miles per hour, but really inside in their heads, they can go at 1,000 miles per hour. Resentment sets in because they feel like everybody in the world is holding them back. And this is no understatement, because to get into Mensa, which is an organisation for highly gifted people, you have to have an IQ of around 130. This will put you in the top 2% of smart people globally. That means if I were to put a Mensa person into a random room, just one person would be smarter than them out of 100 people. That's loneliness. That's the resentment. Because they feel like no one can understand them. So even though they're in a school of 2,000 people, they feel completely alone and trapped. Once a smart kid becomes around 18 years old, they might go to university, pick up a trade, or pursue a career in the creative arts. But either way, it doesn't even matter. It's not about what the smart kid chooses to do, but more so, who they are. Bang, 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 the smart kid's on it. They're beating the whole class. They might even be faster than their own professor. They're winning. But are they really? Because once class is up, who are they going out to relax with? No one. They might join some sort of society, but those type of societies aren't really valued by the general public in a university. So they kind of keep it hush hush. For a smart kid, life is like putting a hoodie on. Put your head down, shut up, don't talk. Because they live in a constant state of fear of, if they showed people who they truly were, they wouldn't even be liked. They'd be laughed at, mocked, called weird, nerdy. All sorts of comments that, at that young tender age, you just can't bear to hear. So they know, shh, 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 don't show people who I really am. It's only going to create further problems for me. It's a life of fear for a smart kid. Constant fear of being unmasked. The smart kid lives with a constant mask on at all times. Think about it. If you go to the average party and say, yeah, I just came back home today and I played my plane simulator. I flew from London to San Francisco, my A380. Yeah, that's not gonna go well, bro. Like, they do need the human touch. They do need to relate to someone. They do want to find a special other, but they have so many problems in that area because They're so unrelatable. For a smart man, he'll find it so difficult because most girls just won't understand him. He's talking about quantum mechanics and physics of the universe and engineering for the latest A380. And the girl's like, oh, what? How does come for a drink, bro? Like, this is all too much. The smart kid gets called names such as intense, weird, and a bit too much. Girls will call the smart man too much. Because he's unrelatable. I have this lovely female friend of mine. Lovely, beautiful, gorgeous woman. And she met this guy. He came down from San Francisco. From Silicon Valley. He took her to the Shard. She thought, wow, this could be the perfect man for me. They come together, and she's thinking, yeah, high hopes. But guess what he talks about? He talks about Lego. He talks about his Lego sets. And how he codes for a living and all these high level, like, really difficult to understand topics. And she told me, within minutes, she became unattracted. That was it. Like, she was mentally checked out. She was like, Hezron, I just don't understand him. Like, he has the money, he has a good career, he's ambitious, successful, in one of the biggest companies, one of the biggest upcoming companies in the world, but Hezron, I just don't get him. Bang. Over. No chance. Smart men start to resent other men even because they think, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I've got the money, but this bad boy over here, which is just lazy, broke, and not so smart and wise really, he's getting all the girls. Why does he get all the girls, but I don't? The smart man starts to go into even more resentment because he just doesn't get it. And that's because for a smart person, all they relied on their entire lives to get ahead is purely their intelligence. Because most people don't have intelligence to fall back on, they default to emotion and sociability. The smart kid never had to do that because up until that point, the best and easiest way to get ahead was through pure intelligence. Emotions, social interactions didn't matter. So for that reason, the smart individual didn't learn how to use and understand emotion. Everyone else learned how to become relatable. The smart kid learned how to be faster. Everyone else learned how to step into another person's shoes. The smart person never had to understand that because he was working alone. He had very few friends. So now when the smart kid steps into the real world, he finally finds himself in a place where his intelligence isn't enough. He realizes that the world isn't revolved around intelligence. Yes, up until that point, the best way to get ahead was by being smart. But in the real world, those who make the most money, those who have the best relationship success, those who have the best family lives and family relationships aren't necessarily the smartest. And the smart person now realizes that everything that he previously relied on, his smartness, their intellect won't help them out here. It collapses their whole world. Yeah, they've got a good job. They've got the money, but on the flip side, they can't find a girlfriend. They can't find people to go out to the cinema with on a Friday night. They're lonely. All the money in the world, but no one to spend it on. It's a deep, dark place. And the reality is, the smarter you are, the more challenges you're going to face. For being smart is not a virtue. Much like it's a curse. Then the depression ensues because they have what society deems as the ultimate cheat code to be smart. But yet, they're miserable. And what's worse is, they can't tell anybody else because if they were, they would be called names such as narcissistic, better than everybody else, up their own beep, ungrateful. But what a lot of us don't understand is, just because you're smart doesn't mean you have no problems. Just like being rich or successful, although it makes life a lot easier in some ways, it doesn't mean it doesn't make life harder in other ways. But the smart person realizes you can't complain about being smart in public. Because if you do that, people won't like you. The rich person can't complain that their father died or they lost their business because, hey, you young man, you can't complain, you're rich. You must have no worries. This is the absolute myth of society. You're pretty, beautiful young girl. You're young, you're pretty, you have young hair, your face glows like neon lights at a FIFA World Cup show. So you can't complain about your life. Your life must be perfect. You are Vogue level looks. You have millions in the bank account. That must mean you have no problems. But it's not true, is it? Think about the most charming, most loving, relatable person that you know. You know, there's always that one guy or girl that you just want to see them and they make you feel so good. Are they the smartest person in the room? No. Never. Because to be smart is inherently intimidating. Have you ever met a person where you see them and it's just like, wow, this mad shining light, it's like it blasts and radiates from them. Yeah, you know they're smarter than you. And because they're smarter than you, you get intimidated before they even open their mouths. So you've already set up a perception about them before you've even met them, really. You've already judged them before you've even got to know them on a deeper level. It's like that pretty girl, you know, even me, like when I see a pretty girl, it's like, oh bro, like a bit nervous of you, bro, like you're a bit hot for me, like let me just pull back here. You can't really show your true self to someone you're intimidated by, so then you start to pull back. That's why a lot of smart people start going to drugs and alcohol, because they kind of have nothing else to fall back on. They realize that having a great job and loads of money in the account isn't enough. I would say all of that is 20% of life. The real meaning of life comes from the people that you meet, the interactions that you make, the relationships which you build. Smartness just ain't enough. So they think to themselves, if they were just not as smart, life would be easier because, guys, ignorance is bliss. And if they weren't smart to begin with, would they even care to be in the first place? So you still want to be smart, huh? You still think it's all it's cracked up to be? Be careful what you wish for, because the grass isn't always greener on the other side. This is the Hezron Springer Show.